Good afternoon. My name is Enrique Pepin, District 5 Boston City Councilor. I am the chair of Boston City Council Committee on City Services and Innovation Technology. Today I am joined by my colleagues, Councilor Gabriela Coletta, Councilor Ed Flynn, Councilor Aaron Murphy, Council President Ruti Luigen, Councilor Anderson, Councilor Mejia. This hearing is being recorded. It is being live streamed at boston.gov/citycounciltv and broadcast on Xfinity Channel 8, RCN Channel 82, or Files Channel 964. Written comments may be sent to the committee email at ccc.go@boston.gov and will be made a part of the record and available to all councilors. Public testimony will be taken at the end of this hearing. If you wish to sign up for public testimony here in the chamber, please sign in on the sheet near the door. If you are looking to testify virtually, please email Cora Montron at cora.montron@boston.gov for the link, and your name will be added to the list. Today's hearing is on docket 01998, order for a hearing regarding technological infrastructure improvements across city departments. Just want to start off by saying thank you to the panelists and to the councils that are here, but I do want to pass it on to the original sponsor of this docket, Councilor Gabriela Coletta.
Thank you so much, Chair, and I just want to thank my co-sponsors, Councilor Flynn and Councilor Braden, and my colleagues for being here in this conversation. Thank you so much to the administration. Carrie, it's good to see you. Familiar face here, and Chief, thank you so much for your work as well. The purpose of this docket is to ensure that our city is making progress and has sufficient resources to embed state-of-the-art technology into every aspect of city services. Bringing our city departments into the 21st century will provide high-quality departmental resources for constituents and city workers. We seek to upgrade our systems to be more efficient and responsive to the day-to-day needs of our constituents. Ultimately, they are our customers, so to speak. We are providing a service, and the service is municipal government. Although if our programs and softwares are not speaking to one another, it inhibits us from providing adequate services to those folks. We held a hearing last year, and I'm hopeful that we can continue this conversation and explore more investments to ensure our city's technological infrastructure can serve our residents. So my understanding is that, and we've had multiple conversations, so I just want to thank you for your deep partnership in this. I know that you've been meeting with my staff regularly, and you and I have had conversations about progress, and so I look forward to diving into that. I understand that there's been an assessment of all city departments. Looking forward to understanding that what that assessment looks like and that audit. I've heard you've hired a few folks based on the increase in the budget that was provided last year, so would love to hear how that's going. You also secured gold of What Works Cities. I hope I said that right, so congratulations. And there were some recommendations from achieving that where we have made progress, but still more progress to obtain. And so I look forward to this conversation and getting into questions, and look forward to the conversation and thoughtful comments and feedback from my colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Flynn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for holding this hearing, and to Councilor Coletta and Councilor Braden as well for being co-sponsors. It's critical that our city departments have the necessary tools, the technology, the infrastructure in place for our residents when they are requesting city services, neighborhood services, that we are able to report quality of life issues in an effective way and access city departments through technology. A lot of our residents are accessing important information from the city through the internet or through their phone. It's critical that our city departments not only have the digital infrastructure in place to ensure that residents can easily access information and services, but also think about other information that should be available as well to residents, such as parking regulations or road closures. I look forward to this discussion on how we can further improve the existing technology utilized by our city departments. I want to say thank you to the Chief for being here. And I also want to acknowledge my good friend and outstanding city employee, Kerry, for the important work that you're doing in the city as well. It's good to be with both of you.
Thank you, Councilor. I'm going to go with Councilor Braden because she's an original co-sponsor of this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon. Thanks to you all for being here. I'll keep my comments short. I'm really interested in the technological infrastructure in our city so that we can deliver city services more efficiently and in the 21st century. Like some of our departments, we're still lagging behind in terms of our technology infrastructure. And I'm also very hopeful that now that the planning department is going to become an in-house city department, that there'll be improved communication between planning and other city departments as well in terms of projected needs and better help for strategic planning going forward, not just in real-time response to constituents' needs, but also strategic planning going forward for all of our city departments. So technology and technological infrastructure and GIS information systems are all very, very important in that. So I'm looking forward to the conversation this afternoon, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Councilor Braden. Councilor Murphy.
And thank you to the sponsors for bringing this forward. Thank you for being here to talk about this is an important thing, right? It's 2024 and equity is part of this conversation too, making sure that all departments have the infrastructure needed and that their websites are up to date and accessible. I know that's not on your department directly, but making sure that as we're expecting more people to pay their bills online and schedule appointments online and find out important city services through the internet, that this conversation about the infrastructure is important. I know that we often have conversations in this chamber about making sure that people have access to affordable internet connection and other cafes. You know, we talk about making sure people can go to the library or have access to the internet. It's important, but this conversation is important in the way it's worded about making sure across city departments that we're doing a better job for our residents, that we're expecting them to use the internet, so we should make sure that it's up and running in any way we can support your department that I know does a wonderful job. That's what I'm here to support, so thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Council President Louis Jen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank the sponsors for this hearing. I want to thank the admin chief, and I want to thank you, Kerry, not a stranger to the chambers, for being here. I just want to echo what my colleagues have stated. We had a hearing this morning, actually, when we're talking about trash in the city of Boston and our inability to really enforce liens in the way that we like to really hold our property owners accountable. And one of the reasons why we heard that it's not possible is because our technological infrastructure are not speaking to each other, and we need to get better at that because there are property owners who need to get liens in the same way that we need to make sure that we have the technological infrastructure for BTD and Public Works. And so here to support my colleagues in this hearing order and here to support whatever we can do to make our technology give us more capability to do what we want to do in the city, whether that be with parking or whether that be what I care about deeply is the enforcement of liens, being able to place liens and enforce liens. So looking forward to the conversation, and I know we'll be continuing to talk about this when it comes to trash and liens. So thank you.
Thank you, Council President. Councilor Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hi, Carrie. Sorry, what's your name again? Santiago. I think everyone by now is getting used to me that I'm terrible with names. I'll remember what you're wearing, though. Very pictorial. So thanks for being here. We know that you're awesome, but your computers suck. And your systems obviously are outdated. That's not your fault. You guys are amazing. So let's talk about how to make it better. I have some ideas. You know that I'm very interested in this, so looking forward to the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Mejia.
Thank you, Chair. And just for the record, I do care about trash. I wasn't here for that hearing, but I was at speaking at McCormick. Then I had a community ribbon cutting at an organization that I help support. And then I went to visit some students at a nonprofit organization in South Boston. So just for the record, in case anyone is wondering about my attendance, I was busy doing other things out in these streets, which is the work that I do. But anyways, we're here for this hearing now. I'm curious, and I am looking forward to learning a little bit more around information justice. In particular, I often talk about the fact that, yes, access to digital democracy and being able to get on websites and all that sort of stuff is important, but I'm always going to be concerned about those who can't read and write, even in their native languages. And so as we're talking about infrastructure, I really want to be inclusive in terms of like uses of visuals and audios and more videos and ways of how to utilize and navigate city departments. So would love to know what infrastructure looks like for those folks who have trouble with reading and writing. So that is definitely something that I deeply care about. So more uses of audio and visuals. Let's get there. Then I'm gonna like to learn a little bit more about being able to digitize and streamline more of our, trying to get a birth certificate. Like there are a lot of different services that our residents use. How can we make accessing that information easier, and also making it easier for people to just download information that they need, so they don't have to come here to pick it up, if there's ways and what that would look like. And then I'm also curious about BHA and how can we support our housing developments in terms of technology infrastructure, and what does that look like? And then I'd love to have a better understanding, and this is what I've been asking everyone. I know this is not a budget hearing for the funds, but I'm always curious if we're gonna host hearings to ask you all, what are you doing and what you're not doing? I think it's really important for us to hear from you. What do you need to be set up for success? And what does that look like? And those are the sort of things that I'd like to tap into when it's my turn. Thank you. Just giving you the heads up so you can start getting your notes together. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Fitzgerald.
Guys, thank you for coming. Carrie, good to see you. Santiago, nice to meet you. Look, we should always be looking at ways to be more efficient, improve our infrastructure, improve the technology as more comes online, and how we can do that to improve our services. So I look to you guys for suggestions and what we as the council can do to support that, and look forward to this conversation. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. Sorry about that. Yeah, good timing. So now I would like to introduce today's panelists testifying on behalf of the administration. If you could, before you start your opening statements, just name your name and your title.
Kerry Jordan, Chief of Staff for the Department of Innovation and Technology. Very excited to be here with you all today. Definitely a different lens than I'm used to, but happy to be in the room with you all.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Santiago Garces. I am the Chief Information Officer for the City of Boston, and I direct the Department of Innovation and Technology.
Thank you. Do you have any opening remarks?
We're excited to dig in. I know that there's, as you have stated, technology is a core component of the way that we provide services. It's a core part of how we pay people, we execute payroll, how we pay people, as in how we manage our vendors and our contracts with the different people that provide services. It supports the operations of so many departments, and we have a large and complex city, and it's a city that's changing the way that it works. So as we continue to build better experiences for both the constituents and for the workforce, we continue to rely on technology to build better experiences, to be able to accommodate a growing number of people and a growing number of a diverse group of people that want to access us with different levels of proficiency in English, with people with disabilities. And so we are in the business of supporting a lot of departments and agencies in trying to be able to do this work at scale, to make sure that as we build some of these systems that we can do it in a way that is secure as well. Precisely because we become dependent and in need of this technology. We need to build it in a way that is secure, in a way that is thoughtful, in a way in which we make sure that the investments that we make on one system can support a need further down the line. And I'm just, as an opening statement, to say that I'm really grateful for the support that we've had, obviously from Mayor Wu, but also from the council in making sure that we have the resources to be able to do this. We work and we see the city at a really large scale because we support, to some extent, even a lot of our quasi-independent agencies. We support BPDA, which will transition to the city planning department, but we work with BPHC, with the schools, with the libraries, with everybody. So a lot of times we work closely with these departments and agencies to deliver the projects and the work that we do, but we truly operate at a really large scale, like over 20,000 users that sign in through Access Boston. We have 11 million visitors to boston.gov every year. We support over 350 buildings connected through our Optic network. So we're a 24/7 department that supports really everyone and every constituent in some way or another. So we're grateful to be able to share with you. I think that going into the presentation, we mostly wanted to give an update on what we presented the last time here, and obviously happy to take your questions and the different perspectives. So again, initially when we had the conversation in October, we started to understand, and I know that our partners in the Boston Transportation Department and the Streets Cabinet, they might join us in a little bit, but, so Amy Corden in BTD is like our part. Most of what we're going to share with you is possible and thanks to our partners. So it's whatever win and success is definitely a shared success, but we have some good progress to share with you. So when we spoke last, we were talking about a situation where the city didn't have a digital representation, didn't have a collection of the assets that help manage the right-of-way, our street signs, our street lights. There's some sparse collection about some items like trees, but really we were lacking kind of this like holistic collection. And some of the departments, and we continue to have this, but some of the departments in particular, you're interested in parking, did not have some of the assets and the work that they do to support those assets digitized. And as we said, the work that we do is part of this longer roadmap. Nothing gets solved overnight, but it is part of this incremental work that we do to change the way that we work, but also to help solve other problems. So it is exciting to report that I think that when we met in October, we said that we would have our assets digitized and the workflows in BTD digitized using Cartograph by June of 2024. And we can say that we have exceeded the goal, and we are, BTD has been using Cartograph, which is this new work order and asset management system. So whenever the sign shop is replacing a sign, they're using this electronic systems to track to make sure that the work order got completed, that we're taking a picture and that we're able to register that the work was done. And now we have information about that sign that is in operation, which helps us keep being better stewards. And I would just say this work would not have been possible. Our work is the support behind the scenes, but Amy and the people at BTD have been just superheroes in implementing and changing the way that they work, bringing tablets and iPads to the field, and really integrating this stuff. And this feeds into work that you have supported through the budget process of us being able to modernize our constituent services technology stack. The work that Jay Greenspan, who's our Senior Director of Constituent Services Products, under the guidance of Chief Digital Officer Julio Gutierrez, this is a piece of that, but we're ahead we're ahead of schedule, and I don't want to underestimate how much work it took to get here. The other great accomplishment that we're a little bit ahead of schedule with is, thanks to support from the Budget Office and from you all, we were able to digitize, I'm going to read off the numbers so I don't have them fresh in my head, but it's about 300,000 assets that we have in the right-of-way. Now we have them in GIS, represented with a picture, and the good thing is, as of this meeting as well, and thanks to our data team, you could look this data up in our open data portal. If you go to data.boston.gov, if you search for cartograph signs, you can see the data set that has all of the signs, and there's a link that if you click on it, you can go to view a picture of the asset. We partnered with a company called Cyclomedia that also filters out any people's faces and license plates and stuff, so there's a privacy filter. But again, ahead of schedule, and tying the two together, for the first time ever, we're able to relate the work that is being done with the asset. So if we have to go and replace a sign 5 times, we know that we've replaced that sign 5 times as opposed to just we're issuing work, which helps us be better in efficiency and effectiveness as we start thinking about like the total cost of ownership of our assets, which is something that obviously the people in the engineering side of things also really care about. So lots of really great progress. Oh, wait. So now that we've done some of this work, and again, what we shared, I know that from the council there's a lot of interest in being able to think about what's the future experience and we're making incremental progress. We know that there's work to be done, particularly when it comes to digitizing the regulations on the right-of-way. We have a record of where there's parking restrictions, but we don't have the information around what type of restriction is in place. You know, there's residential parking restrictions, there's no-tow zones, there's restrictions based on snow plowing and street cleaning and all these things. So we know that there's a restriction, but we will start working on figuring out how to extract that information further down the road. And being able to start building better information systems so that our constituents can know where do we have park and whatnot, to support the work that Commissioner Nick Gov had shared last time about like rethinking the regulations. We can't do that if we don't have the data to do it, and we're getting close. We're moving in that direction. Still work to be done, but this is an example of the pictures that we've collected with our partner Cyclomedia that drove all across the city and collected that information.
Santi, sorry,
Yes.
sorry to interrupt you. Would you or Carrie be able to share that presentation so that some of our colleagues can see that? Can you share that with me really quickly? So
Yes.
that I can share amongst our colleagues.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I think that we shared with the staff. We'll share it with the council members.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're
You may
good.
proceed.
Absolutely. So, again, what is some of the ongoing work we need to do, like, when it comes to digitizing parking regulations and doing this work? Again, continue to leverage the investment that we've made in trying to extract information about what the restrictions actually say, so that we can then tie back with the people that are doing the policy work. I'd reemphasize one more time, this is not do it, this is working, supporting the work that BTD and the Streets Cabinet does, and we're there just to try to make it easier for them, make sure that neither the devices nor the data nor the technical components are the barrier, but to enable them to move further down the road. So we keep working together to try to be able to extract that information, and again, continue to build the capacity to do user experience research, to engage with the people that would be using these tools, to understand what do they need, how would they want to experience like how to consume that information in a way that's accessible. Sorry, I'm going to try to. So again, we want to make it foremost, build great experiences for our constituents. That the work of interacting with the city is easy, streamlined, that we are being effective in the way that we're leveraging the data to be more effective in the way that we run a large organization. You all are responsible for making tough decisions when budget time comes by, so making sure that we're supporting both the operations and the decisions around these things. That we continue to help improve and support the work, the big transformational work and the regulatory changes that you guys are interested, but making sure that we have the right information to do that. And enable the next generation of work. And prior to this meeting, I was meeting with some of our partners, some of the vendors that we work with, and they acknowledge the fact that Boston's doing work that's at the cutting edge. Every city deals and struggles with some of these same issues, but we are, thanks to the investments and the support that you have for our department and for the other departments, we're doing things right, and there's still work to be done, but we're doing a lot of the right things, and and creating accessible experiences, and being able to drive better outcomes for our residents. I think that's the end of the presentation. We just wanted to give you an update on what we presented last time, and again, the TL, the synthesis, the summary would be, we're a little bit ahead of schedule of what we had promised you, and it wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for the resources that you guys gave us. So, thank you.
Thank you for that presentation. And I'd just like to acknowledge that we're going to begin with the first round of questions, and I'm going to give the start to the sponsors of this docket, and then I'll return to the floor over to the colleagues in order of arrival. The way I like to do this, I like to start off with 3 minutes for the first round of questions for my counselors, and then so that we can continue the conversation. And then we'll do a second round of questions if there's more. We're going to start with Councilor Gabriela Coletto.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, and thank you for this presentation. I appreciate the update. And I just love the fact that we are really digging into the nuts and bolts here. This is really where the rubber meets the road, where we talk about this machine that is city government and making sure that it's well-oiled and running at its most efficient and effective, so that we're better, faster, stronger at serving our constituents. And so this is the work that I love, and I'm very passionate about it. I could tell that you're also passionate about it too. And I just want to level set too with some of my colleagues that who weren't here last year. So this is an amalgamation of 2 hearing orders. One was about the digitization of parking regulations, which is where this presentation comes from, and I appreciate the fact that you're giving us an update, because I remember saying, I'm going to call you back in here to see where this is at, just to see how our tax dollars are being utilized, because we did get that budget allocation for you, and very proud of that, and I'm excited to hear about your work. And then on the flip side was a broader discussion about the technological infrastructure in the city of Boston, and what you all are doing in each individual city department, not just BTD and Public Works, and the fact that you are conducting an audit of all the city departments to even level set and figure out where we are at in terms of programs and systems and softwares, and how we can all talk to one another. And so it is a far and away concept that I think I struggle with trying to motivate the public to care about, because it impacts them and how they interact with city government. But again, appreciate the presentation. Congrats on being ahead of schedule for the cartograph. And the reason why this is so important is because we have been using Google Maps as a way to track where our signs are and what our regulations are, which is just not good government. And it's not anybody's fault, but it really just came down to ensuring that we had a good audit and system to track our own assets. And I appreciate you all doing that. Let's see. I think I'll go into, the broader conversation when it comes to technological infrastructure, and just wondering about the progress made so far on your individual department audits. Have we contracted any vendors to look at technological platforms that the city may be moving towards? Do we need multiple vendors? Is that a line item in the budget that you're seeking this year? If you can just talk a little bit more about your work with individual city departments beyond BTD and Public Works, even though we know that is important. And thank you, Amy, for your work. Just hoping for you to expand on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are in the process of concluding an assessment that was done in partnership with Plan Moran, which is a consulting firm. To your point, we know that for residents and constituents who have good experiences, things need to work well. The answer of, BTD or BPDA does this, but the other agency doesn't have this, like, that doesn't sound well, right? So we need experiences that really integrate pieces and components of different agencies and departments in a way that's kind of seamless. So this was, I think, like the first time that we could find out of doing an audit, really, not only within Do It, but citywide of technology, how it's operated. Mostly we were trying to understand how we staff support around technology, what do we do, kind of thinking about like where there might be gaps and where there might be overlaps. So I'll just read, the final report will come, we're still finalizing, so it's not fully public, but like, so these are preliminary results, but just so that you, I think, have a sense of like the scale of what we've been discovering is on the Do It side alone, which again is like just one part of this broader ecosystem. We have 8 programs, so there's like 8 types of work across 40 teams, 94 different solutions that we support, and 73 different types of things that the departments and agencies can request from Do It. And again, some of the things that we do support everybody, like we provide internet service to all the Boston Public School students, but Do It is the ISP it's the one that supports internet connectivity to the schools and the libraries, but we don't do everything for everyone. So the other piece that is new that we kind of are piecing together is what happens with technology across all the other departments and agencies, and the numbers, and again, it just shows to the scale, but we have 14 different groups that do technology at the city. Do is just one of them. Over 9 categories of different types of services. We support 154 technology products, and there's 107 different services. So Do It's definitely the largest IT provider in the city, but what we're trying to do is be able to govern and support each other to try to give really good experiences for constituents and consistency. So in this current fiscal year, thanks to, again, the mayor and y'all for the support, we're starting to build a new practice that we call business relationship management, where Do It has a relationship with all departments and agencies to understand what their needs are so that we can align what we're doing and then continue to build in a way that doesn't create silos or like barriers in the experiences that people have. So I'll tell you some of one of our first BRM is working on the project to bring the BPDA to the city. So like coordinating, making sure that all of those employees on July 1st have a seamless experience. They're still able to log in and do their work. It takes a lot of coordination. There's been work that we've been doing, and again, all of the stars of our work is our partners. So we've been working with the registry department and with BPS to enable access to birth certificates from parents that are trying to enroll kids. So this is really, again, Paul Chung and the Welcome Center's cred, we just ended up doing the magic behind the scenes, so that when a parent's trying to enroll a kid in BPS, if we have a birth certificate, they don't have to come back to City Hall to the registry and get the certificate to enroll the kid. The registry is now able to access, the Welcome Center is able to access that information from the registry in a way that's secure so that the parents can enroll the kid. So it's all these little interfaces and all the things that we know that can be frustrating about government, where they're like, this is the wrong window, go to this other place. To the extent that we keep building this comprehensive view of technology and information, that we make it less frustrating for people to interact with us.
Thank you, and I know my time is up. I'll hold my questions for the next round. Thank you,
Sorry.
Santi.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Flynn?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know you're working on a lot of great initiatives, but my neighborhood in Chinatown is still struggling to access the internet, especially residents living in high-rise type buildings, limited access. They have a couple kids, maybe in the school system. Sometimes they don't have the full access, so both kids can access the internet at the same time if they're doing remote learning. What are we doing for this type of a community where the technology is poor and we also are dealing with language challenges as well, digital equity issues? So what do you think, Chief?
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, Councillor, we know that and again, we continue to get more data and information that confirm this, that the gaps in Boston for people to connect with affordable, high quality digital experiences, for the most part, people that live in affordable housing. So we have been working very closely with the state, with the Massachusetts Broadband Institute, which is the lead in digital equity at the state. So our digital equity officer, Brian Donahue, has been working closely, and there's some programs to help do residential retrofit. So buildings that have high concentrations of affordable housing units are eligible to get funding to build infrastructure, to build free Wi-Fi within the unit, or to do some projects. So we've been working very closely with Kenzie Bach, with Administrator Bach, and with others on the city, like the public-owned side of things, but there is funding, and we've been voicing and sharing with the state that definitely we need the support and the investment to help make sure that every resident, whether it's an elderly adult, whether it's a family with young kids, everybody's able to connect to the internet in a way that is affordable, that is convenient. So happy to follow up if there's specific buildings or units that you think that would need support. We can connect them with the state funding and make sure that we're working towards.
That would be great. Thank you, Chief. My final question, do you track where calls come in from constituents across the city who uses access to technology for a constituent request and who calls in on the telephone?
So I would, if it's okay, I would get back to you on that. I don't know off the top of my head exactly what information we're collecting, but again, we do support the 311 call center.
That would be helpful. I guess the reason I'm asking is I represent the South Boston waterfront. I would assume most of the people there are using digital access for a constituent request, but I want to see what lower income residents that I also represent in public housing, how they're connecting to city services. Thank you.
Yeah, we're happy to follow up. We tried to find the right balance between privacy and convenience. So and a lot of the times when we receive a request, we don't capture all the information because we want to respect people's privacy, but I can follow up with more specific details.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Braden.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Congratulations on being ahead of schedule on the street work, on the street signs, etc. All that, I didn't realise there were so many assets in the public way. There's a lot of stuff out there. Let's see. The city operates what they call a federated IT environment, so all the different departments have their own sort of autonomy to a certain extent. And the Department of Do It provides some central services to city agencies, and other services are budgeted out. Do you find that's like a challenge in terms of having everybody up to systems that talk to each other, and then just even the security apparatus in terms of keeping it secure? Like, how are we moving towards having a more integrated, centralized system, or are we still? Is that a long way off?
Yeah, we continue to do work in that regard about thinking about what the governance model for technology is, because we know that, again, usually it's a constituent that is impacted by when the systems don't interact with each other. We're making someone do more work, and often the people that rely the most on government services are the people that need government to work better. Mm-hmm. So we're making some progress around, again, building this business relationship management and this governance and policy team. I think that there's work to be done. The good things, like we've been building a lot of trusting relationships with the different departments and agencies, with the schools, with BPD, with others, and we think that we can, it's our job, I think it is my job, what the mayor brought me here, to raise the floor so that we can all have a better experience, that we're making, giving experiences that are dignified, that are embracing of the fact that people have different levels of access to technology, that have different levels of comfort with technology, different language skills, and there is work to be done, and we're just starting to move towards at least like having that visibility into what are the pieces that we might be missing.
Yeah, and we had a hearing this morning about, what was our hearing about this morning? Trash and code enforcement, and one issue that we're bumping into is when we do, when we want to issue a lien on a property, the courts have told us that we can't, even if we have good information on that particular property and the owner of it, we can't issue a lien because we don't have that level of standard across the board. And they have in the past issued a lien on a property and that didn't have accurate information about ownership. So I think this is an issue that's more intergovernmental in the sense how the City of Boston Assessing Department communicates with the Suffolk Registry of Deeds so that we have timely and accurate information about the ownership of a property. Is that something, how difficult, or like, I know this is, I'm throwing you a zinger here, like how difficult would it be to sort of address that issue? Because it's an intergovernmental sort of extra entity outside of the city.
Yeah, I would be happy to look into it. Again, I couldn't come up with the right answer without working with our team, but what I would say is we're hiring and we have a really talented team of people, our data engineering team, that enable some of the stuff that we've talked about, like behind the scenes. So I would be happy to follow up, and we've been also building good relationships with folks in the state. So we'll take it as an action item and try to understand how we might be able to work to address the issue.
Thank you. I think that would be very helpful because we're letting a lot of people off the hook in terms of enforcement, and we're leaving a lot of money on the table as well, I think. Cybersecurity, I'm always very conscious of the fact in this modern time that if there's a cyber attack, it can close the whole city down. I don't want you to release proprietary information here, but is that something we have the resources to keep up to speed, keep on top of all of that?
Yeah, I think, at some point, if it's the interest of the council, we could do a privilege session and give you more information. But it's something that's at the forefront of our top of mind. We have a great chief information security officer and a great security team, but as we start again thinking, the way that cybersecurity threats work, we're all connected. So this is part of the other spirit behind of the improving governance and visibility across the board. The bad guys only need to enter through one door, and once they're in, they can start moving around. So it's a big area of concern, and something that we can talk about more. But again, we have a good, robust program, and Greg McCarthy is a great Chief Information Security Officer.
Good, appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Murphy.
Technology, as you know, it provides access, but it also breaks down barriers. So I appreciated when you said the scenario about getting a birth certificate. 2-3 years in a row now, I've held a hearing about the youth summer jobs, and one thing I hear the most, and I know my colleagues probably do also, is the kids who go and apply and don't have their working papers or may not have a parent at home that can help them get those documents in time. So would love to know if you're working with that office too, because a lot of the documents that I brought up at one of the hearings, your birth certificate and proof of address, are all things, if you're a BPS kid, we already know in our BPS system. Why can't we just use what we already know securely and just issue working papers so that kids can get summer jobs? And that's just one example, but is that something that you're doing in that department and in others?
Yes, that particular opportunity is one that's in our radar. And again, we've been working closely with BPS and with others. There's pieces around when we think about security and privacy. Again, there's sometimes certain information is restricted because like might be used by another agency in a way that was not intended in a way that was not intended. But we are working with the people in the youth summer program. And again, we work very closely trying to build a better experience. So, and I just make sure that the credit goes. Paul Chung, our city registrar, was the one who came up with the idea and has been a great partner and a great champion. We've been working closely together to enable those integrations.
That's awesome. Obviously, it's been brought up, but the departments need to talk to each other. So there is a lot on your office, because in this day and age in the digital world, it's going to be electronically. So I hope when you come back to us, and I know you probably already saw your part of the budget, that there's enough resources there to expand. And thank you, Councilor Braden. I know it's, something that we have to just be aware of, right? When we had the AT&T breach, or we had the shutdown, or even when we have a tanker that crashes, the first thing people think was this like a cyber security, did something happen? So definitely happy to hear that we are on top of that. One just question about the assets. When you talked about the enormous amount, are we only referring to street signs? What other assets did we record in that?
I believe that we have about 18 different types of assets. I got the number right. Amy, confirmed by Amy, about 18 different types of assets, mostly things that are clearly visible. Someone that would be driving through the right-of-ways is like signs, poles, masts, street lights.
Cones, like just different things.
Yeah, different things. And again, we continue to, our goal is to keep integrating and adding more parts. And we work closely with different departments that own and operate assets. Our hope would be to expand some of this methodology also to the Parks Department and other groups so
Awesome.
Little by little, we're making progress.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm interested, by looking at the title and then, reading it further, I guess it's a lot about transportation, but really interested in what it says here, improvements across city departments. And in thinking about, our office and what we do on a daily basis, I wonder why there isn't an option in the 311 app to, so that constituents can share the inquiry, or so that you can share the inquiry with our offices.
With the council?
Yes.
Okay.
Because if the constituents give consent, then the question, there won't be a problem of confidentiality. They're consenting. They're saying, yeah, share this with my counselor.
Yeah, again, we're always looking for ideas on how to improve our systems. We could entertain, again, and so, like sometimes the constraints when we are implementing technology, it's also the vendors, like the people that provide this particular applications built by a third party that sells this tool to a couple of different cities, so they tend to gauge our request. But I would be happy to follow up with that idea and see if it's feasible and if it could be possible. And
it's a checkbox. It's a little checkbox. You just go, yeah, share this with my counselors.
Yeah, it's again, we embrace innovation and
it would go
and new
to all
ideas.
at-larges. It would go to the district counselor and all at-larges. It would streamline this idea that counselors have to call 311 and follow up in all of these departments. We would have an inventory somewhere, a spreadsheet collecting inquiries. So we would already have firsthand, oh, this constituent, I know this Miss, John Doe, I know Mr. John Doe, I know that they put in an inquiry about the sidewalk somewhere. It's intuitive, and the way it is right now, it's super counterintuitive, right? We don't get to know until they complain. And then they get frustrated because they complain, and then we call the departments. The departments are great, but they're already involved in the inquiry. Why not just share it with us? If the constituent says it's okay. That's one idea. Another thing is, how come we don't have laptops?
So,
I know, I'm kidding.
no. So that is
Go
a
ahead.
great question. If you don't mind me giving a response. So
Yeah.
we are in the process of changing the way that this, and again, thanks to the support that you give us, we are changing. We're trying to be better about how we manage our assets our technology assets, and in that spirit, we have started the process. We've started the process of centralizing the budgeting and purchasing of devices and standardizing. So we are standardizing 2 laptops, and we will be creating a 4-year refresh cycle. So every 4 years, you'll have a device that is under warranty. So there is a laptop, they're coming.
They're coming.
They're coming. Yeah. So we started the process. We have the first set of deployment. We're working. So you know how we're doing this? We're working off of the devices that are the oldest devices and the devices that tend to have the most security concerns. And there's a rank order, but we'll get to the council and make sure that you guys have the tools that you have to do your job.
Thank you.
Councilor Anderson,
Mr. Chair,
if you could weigh into the second round so that we continue.
the
conversation.
suggestion here is maybe limiting to 3 questions, not 3 minutes. Saying you got 3 questions.
Okay.
Because
I'll consider
some
that.
people, 3 minutes takes 1 question.
Yeah, but I'll consider that for the next hearing.
Can I follow up on what he said, though? There's a follow-up.
Can I ask you to please wait for the second round of questions, just to continue the conversation?
It's exactly about what he just said.
I'll allow it this time.
I appreciate it. This is why I got elected. So, I'm kidding. But listen, about the 311 thing, we don't have systems. You guys have Airtable, you have different databases that you actually keep track of what's happening. You have the 311 app. All of this money, tax dollars that comes from the constituents, goes straight to the city side. The council side that also deals with constituent services, our job is sort of like the accountability part or whatever, but we're held even more accountable because I don't think most people are clear that this is the mayor's job. The mayor's responsibility is constituent service, not the council's. However, we get that responsibility of following up. If we create a system for the council that uses AI to translate emails into constituents' inquiries, that would be amazing. And guess what? It exists. I like to talk about that too. Go ahead. Thank you. I'm so sorry, Mr. Chair.
It's okay.
See how it connected there?
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Mejia.
I like following Councilor Anderson so that we can keep up the vibe here. So I would love to add to my list of inquiry here. Every single hearing that I do, in every single opportunity that I've had, I've asked for a dashboard of sorts. I'm like a dashboard queen, especially with the Boston Jobs residency. For the last 5 years, or however long I've been on this council, I have wanted to figure out how we can hold ourselves accountable to data, right? So for example, when someone, or procurement, or whatever the case is, I'm just giving you the jobs residency, but on the procurement front, it would be great to be able to have some place to be able to keep track of, like, why, if someone wasn't given a job, why? Is there a way for us to sort out the reasons why? And I'm sure they're gonna say, oh, this is for the Boston Jobs residency hearing, not us. But ultimately, there is a role for Do It to play in helping to set up these departments for success. So I'm going to advocate for that and for you all to have a conversation with the folks over in worker empowerment, because at some point, I'd like to get a little bit deeper with these dashboards. There's great ideas, but I think that there's a lot of different things that are missing. And I'm curious if those are missing because it's a capacity issue, or it's because it's a money issue, or is it something that you are not able to do and that we have to outsource it? I need to get the answer as to why I have been to every hearing and I've asked for dashboards and no one has delivered exactly the way that I'm envisioning them.
Yeah, my attempt to answer this would be the Boston Residency Jobs Program that you alluded to. That is built on technology that is not directly supported by Docket. So we support all departments around data analytics in trying to help them build capacity. We procured the software that we use to build the dashboards. But I would defer the question on like the actual building of the dashboard to the folks in the worker empowerment and the, because so we work with them when, and there are some dashboards and some enterprise data pieces that we manage at an enterprise level. So like during the budget hearing process, like a lot of the data
I'll
is
just
managed
blame
by
them.
Docket.
I'll just say that you told
Yeah.
me that.
Yeah, so it's not,
It's
Docket
not you.
doesn't have access to
This is
the
what
data.
happens in this, like, we do this. Not you guys, but, you know, it's like, no, go over here, go over there. It's like ping pong. It's okay. I understand. So let's just get into some of the things around information justice. Like, we filed a hearing order and we were able to pass the language access ordinance that makes sure that everything that comes out in English the same day gets translated in the top 11 languages spoken here in the city of Boston. But during that process, I was fighting for audio and visual, like, because not everybody knows how to read and write, and that's a privilege. And I think that sometimes that we take for granted that everybody knows how to read and write. So I'm curious, what, if any, can you think about, you know, information that you can share with me as to how can we get our data and our access to materials that are more accessible to folks who have a hard time reading and writing?
Yeah, look, accessibility is at the forefront of what we do, and one of the things that we really focus on is when we're building and managing Boston.gov and a lot of the materials that we build, that they're accessible. So we use WCAG, which is the accessibility standards as our design standards, and we try to enforce that with other departments. We work very closely with the Disabilities Commission and with Marie Angeli's cabinet to try to understand how we build more inclusive experiences. So I'd say for us, it's an aspiration of always trying to build things that are more, better designed, that are more intuitive.
Santiago, this is under a new leadership, so it's always hard to have hearings, and you always have to adapt to people's styles. And I only have 3 minutes, and so I think that I'm just going to ask that you all also use symbols, and not just type in Spanish, but maybe if you put like a flag of your country, that if you click that, then everything there gets, so that you can go visually and know that that's the language that is spoken on that website. Something to consider.
Thank you, Councilor. And just to remind you all that there is opportunity for a second round of questions. This is not the only time for questions if you have follow-ups. Councilor Fitzgerald.
Thank you. Punctuality is so important because when you are late to a hearing, all your questions get stolen by your fantastic colleagues. But what I will try, right? That we all go through it every day. It's great. But that's on me. So forgive me if some of these are slightly repetitive or redundant, but I think that there might be another way to answer it. When we come to performance management, Council Mejia just mentioned talking about data. Seems like we had the whole city score, right? You remember that? And from several years ago, and that seems to have kind of died. What are we doing in this domain to ensure we're still making these data-driven decisions, and how are we contemplating that? Or what is this next iteration of City Score, if we have any?
Yeah, no, we continue to, this is a great question. We continue to evolve how we think about using data and how we use it in making and informing decisions. So one, we continue to have and manage the performance management team. And if you look at during the budget process, every department reports performance metrics that get passed on to you, and hopefully that helps inform your decisions around approving or making changes to the budget. We have recently started bringing some other tools and skills that have been tried in other cities. So we recently launched a thing that we call Bostonia Academy, which is a training program that's available to all staff at the city in performance management techniques and what you would recognize as being concepts that exist in Lean and Six Sigma and other places. And anyone at the city is able to, every employee of the city is able to sign up, and there's a silver certification and a gold certification that take different amount of time. And our hope and expectation is that the people that go through the training put it in use. So we train them in how to understand where there's gaps and issues, how to describe the issues, and then measure the improvements.
How do they know? I've worked for the city for a number of years now. I've never heard of it. So how has it been advertised, and how is it cohesive enough where if it's ad hoc and you want to do it and you can and you go back, but where does it fit into the overall scheme of how data is and information is shared amongst all departments and with others?
Yeah, it's new. So that's why you haven't heard about it. We launched it this year. This is in this calendar year was the first time that it's been available. Our goal is to train 300 employees. We've been exceeding signups than what we have capacity. So there's a lot of good referrals. And again, we're training people on how to be able to build better experience. A lot of times, the best source of knowledge about how to make something better are our employees.
Sure.
We're experiencing, they know what's broken. Yep. What we're giving them is vocabulary to be able to express that and then be able to measure so that they can measure the right thing and then be able to communicate to people what the impact of the improvement is.
Thank you. And with people working from a hybrid schedule, I think others touched upon this a little bit, but are we seeing an uptick in hardware costs, people requesting more mobile phones, more laptops, more different hardware to work from home, and is that causing any budgetary concerns, do we think?
So there are, we'll defer the actual piece of the budget for the budget hearing, if that's okay with you, but what I would say is one of the things that we realized during the pandemic is because we didn't have a lot of these investments in governance, that a lot of departments actually ended up having 2 devices. So they'd have a desktop at work and then a laptop, and then there'd be, and that's incredibly inefficient. So part of our goal of standardizing 2 laptops is that we're enabling work, and especially people that might not have a laptop at home, making sure that we're addressing that issue of equity. But we hope that we will actually end up saving money overall because we're reducing the total number of devices.
That's great.
And increasing our security because then we have to secure only one thing, not secure the 2. So.
Yep, no, that certainly helps. I imagine my time's up any second.
Wow. Good
Guys,
job.
I'm good. I'm good.
Seriously. All right. I have some questions. In regards to access to public Wi-Fi, are we working on the speed of the actual Wi-Fi that is provided? And then are we planning on expanding the access to that Wi-Fi, such as transit hubs or public parks?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, definitely we've been trying to make changes and again improve it. We're in the business. We always think that we can do whatever we're doing a little bit better. And then one of the things that we've aligned with Yasha and with other members of the administration is thinking people that are depending on transit that might be waiting for the bus or a train, and a lot of the low-income residents might be having a cell phone or something, but they're lacking a data plan. That's where we want to focus our investment in Wicked Free Wi-Fi. So we do plan on increasing the speed. That's not yet there, but we are working on building high-quality Wi-Fi in Nubian Square, in Maverick, and then we continue to look for other locations. We have some funding from the state to try to deliver that, and then some funding from the council, from the American Rescue Plan as well.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I just want to acknowledge that Councilor Durkin has also joined us. Councilor, do you want to introduce yourself, and you have 3 minutes for questions?
Thank you so much, and I'm sorry I'm walking into this, but I was at the State House, so really appreciate your time and all that you both do. I know we have a meeting with my office soon sometime to talk about some of these things, and I appreciate that I'm walking into a conversation that's already taking place, but I know what often comes up is the need for advanced. The last hearing we had on technological advancements talked a little bit about how not a lot of our rooms are outfitted for Zoom and hybrid models, so I don't know if that has been touched on yet, but would love to get your take on what that looks like and just in terms of our city infrastructure while I have you, Chief Garces. and obviously the King, Carrie, Carrie Gordon, sorry. Sorry.
I deferred this one to Kerry because he's the one who's been devising and executing the plan on hybrid workspace.
One of my exciting projects was working with property management and the operations cabinet to bring hybrid conference solutions to each room. So we're making sure that they're safe and secure because unlike our personal devices, they're assigned for multi-use case. So we're making sure that we're deploying the right technology, and we have units, I believe, in the Piemonte room for the council, but we're looking at the other spaces in the city to make sure that everyone has the tools they need to do their job.
And I think that's an incredibly important thing as we talk about what should be hybrid, what should be in person, and what should stay on Zoom. And so would love to follow up on that conversation because obviously a lot of our constituents are looking for different types of models of meetings. And you know, I've been able to convene a couple of development conversations in my district that the BPDA isn't convening, but they've often had like other stakeholders at the table. And, you know, I think I've often tried to say, like, we're not going to say no to that in-person meeting, but we're going to say who's the host of that in-person meeting to try to sort of make sure that our conversations are relevant to, you know, or that communities that are most impacted sometimes by development have access to those rooms and spaces. So I'm grateful to both of you for everything you do to make our government accessible, but there's always more work to do because there's always new challenges that emerge. I also would be remiss if I didn't mention, obviously the city council is on fully desktop systems right now, and I'm just curious if there's any room for improvement, and that was mentioned. But
we're happy to share with you that we are standardizing the city's technology fleet to have laptops and then have a standard they set up, and we'll work with you guys. You'll get laptops and your staff will get laptops. And again, our hope is that we keep building, giving everyone at the city, not just the council, the right tools to do their job the best way that you need. So if there's feedback or once we start rolling out these new tools, let us know. And if it doesn't meet the need the first time, we'll try to get it done.
Thank you. And it's all about accessibility and flexibility and innovation. So thank you both for leading the charge. And thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. All right, we're going to start with our second round of questions, starting with Councilor Coletta.
Thank you, Chair, and I appreciate my colleagues' participation in this hearing. It's very important, and I appreciate their questions and comments. Following Councilor Braden's question about the fact that Do-It is its own entity, right? And then you have your individual technological departments within the departments, right? And so it's like this federated model that works but doesn't work. To the extent that you can, has there been any intent to, and do we need to provide some quick regulatory fixes through either an executive order and or an ordinance through this council that will allow you more access and more power? Like what are your constraints to oversee some of these technology positions within the department? And do you have the authority to come in and just do a clean sweep and implement some of these changes that you're talking about?
Yeah, something that is in the top of mind, again, the response that I had to give to Councilor Mejia is not one that we like saying, talk to these other people. We want to be in a position where we are being proactive in building the right experiences, regardless of what department or agency is doing the work. So we've been thinking about what are the right types of resources. I'll just cite a little bit of, again, for context, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, I think it's around 2015, 2016, created EOTS, this Executive Office of Technology and Security Services, as this like unified governing body to try to address these issues. Better constituent experience, more security, better interoperability. So things to look ahead and how we can address this. So we're thinking about it.
Okay, and please consider us, of course, partners in this work. Happy to push through whatever we need to. Going back to the What Works Cities assessment, I'm sorry if I'm not getting that wrong. So we received the silver certification from What Works Cities in 2018. And then we just achieved gold last year, so that is an improvement. It showed and suggested that we're stagnant for 5 years before that. And so clearly there's been a lot of improvements done within your department, and it speaks to your leadership for both of you. There were a couple things from the assessment that have not been met or in progress, and I'll just reiterate them for the record. If you want to just provide a general update on what is, and I know you have multiple project flows that are happening. You have X amount of projects that you're working on, and this is one of them. But this is something that I'm curious about because it speaks to a lot of what our priorities are as a council. But for example, where within this assessment, in terms of not met or categorized as not met, our government doesn't have a public-facing documented standard for developing and implementing high-quality data and analytics services citywide. We don't have a documented and implemented commitment to the citywide use of rigorous evaluations, such as an evaluation of policy, agenda, budget requirement, or funding allocation. We don't actively manage contracts using disaggregated performance data to achieve desired outcomes. I think that's something we know through the Boston Residence Jobs Policy, and it's a constant struggle. We don't support efforts to educate, upskill, and activate community members, both individual and local organizations, civic groups, place-based partners, vendors, service providers, to better understand and use city data and analytics services to deepen community impact. And I think I wanted to uplift the Article 80 process and see what your role has been in working in partnership potentially with this new planning department to really shine a light on what the community feedback has been. Right now, we all know the process. A project is happening, Article 80, they put out a broad call, they ask for community members to provide feedback. It largely goes into this black box, and then I call it the everlasting gobstopper machine where the BPDA makes changes, and I know that that is simplifying it to the lowest terms, but I know a lot of work happens behind the scenes with the BPDA staff members. But ultimately, we don't know how they synthesize the community feedback because we don't see it. And we also don't collect demographic data. We don't know with their socioeconomic status. So we don't know who is providing these comments. And I think that your department is going to be so key in what we do moving forward with Article 80 to truly provide a community process that is transparent and then therefore more equitable for the city of Boston. So wondering, I said a lot there. If you have a general comment, but specifically around Article 80, wondering if you've been looped in and what that might look like.
Yeah, I think our goal is to always be better. As you pointed out, I'm a type A person. We work with some really brilliant type A people, so we want to keep getting better. Being at the gold level for the What Works cities means that we're like among some of the top cities in the world. It's a global assessment. There's only a few that are higher than that at a platinum level, but we hope that next time around.
Who are they? I want to know.
New York, I know we're going after them. New York, LA, seems to be a correlation between city size and then their ability to get the platinum, but we hope that we keep doing better. Maybe they'll invent a new category for Boston. Later down the road, we'll get the diamond certification. We're working on a lot of these areas. We're making work either within Do It or with our partners in procurement, working with Casey Wilson Brock and with Laura Melly, who are just absolutely brilliant. So there's so much opportunity and so much work to do, and there's a lot of work that we have to do to keep getting better. So we take that as a challenge, and hopefully we'll keep reporting that we're ahead of schedule in our progress. Not always true, but we'll try.
Thank you, Santi.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Flynn?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As it relates to the Boston Public School System, are you working with BPS and their transportation team, their IT team, in terms of transporting students from their athletic games after school, and if a bus is coming or if a bus is not coming, and not leaving kids at the school waiting for the bus to arrive? Is that a technology issue that we're able to figure out?
We've been working more and more closely with BPS to try to support them in their needs. Obviously, they fall under regulation from DESE and from, they have reasons why they have a slightly, they're a very large department with a number of very specific needs. But we work very closely with them on a number of projects, and there's been some work around how to improve the connection of students to youth sports. It's an area of great concern and attention for Mayor Wu. So we keep working on trying to figure out how we can help and support them. So I'd give you a more detailed, but I know that's a general area where we've been working with
Well,
them.
let me ask a specific question. This afternoon at Excel High School in South Boston, the athletes that play baseball were not able to get to their game in Jamaica Plain because the school bus didn't arrive. I think the kids ended up jumping on the MBTA. So I'm disappointed in that and frustrated about that. I let the superintendent know. But I guess my question is, are you able to assist BPS so that type of situation doesn't happen again? Because there's an IT solution to it. If the bus is not going to come and pick up those students at the corner of their high school, regardless of what neighborhood it is, the principal should know about it, so the principal can go down and tell the kids, your bus is not going to be here. Maybe there's another opportunity for a different way to get you to the ball game.
Yeah, specifically, we don't support that type of technology within BPS. We work with BPS to support a number of different systems, but our intent and our work, the spirit in which we work with Superintendent Skipper and with her team is one of collaboration. So we'd be happy to work with them and try to support them to make sure that the students and parents have a great experience.
Yeah, but I want to make sure, and Chief, I respect you, and you're a nice person, and I know it's not your responsibility, but there has to be an IT solution to not transporting kids from their school to an athletic field. I don't know who is responsible for that. Certainly it's BPS Transportation, but is there also a BPS IT person that should be involved in that conversation? Because we can't leave kids on the side of the street waiting for a bus. If we have the best best IT in the world practically here in Boston, but we can't notify a school principal that your bus is not coming to take these kids from Roxbury to Charlestown or from East Boston to West Roxbury, whatever the case may be. Again, I know you're doing your best and I respect you, but we can do better than leaving kids on the street if there's an IT solution to it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Braden?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So let's see, procurement contracts. 311 constituent management system, hosting services and implementation. When is that? That's really to upgrade the 311 system. How it is problematic. So how long? So you put it out to bid in January. How long does it take to get a new system in place and then get everyone trained on it?
Yes, that is a major effort, and it aligns with everything that we've talked about, building a great experience for constituents, integrating with data, with the data systems that tell us about what people are calling about. So we are still in the process of reviewing the responses to the RFPs and doing our selection. It's a system that, and thanks to your support, we expect to keep for at least 10 years. It's just because the implementation costs are going to be so expensive and the amount of time and enablement that it'll take. So we're taking our time selecting. We think that around the summertime we'll pick the new vendor, and we think that we will be transitioning to the new system over a period of 18 months. So one of the things that we've been learning from our past mistakes, past challenges, is instead of trying to switch everything at the same time, we'll be working on switching services at a time, and then keeping in mind some of the, the spirit of what Councillor Fernandez Henderson said, trying to build a system that is able to keep getting better and keep building new features. So that's roughly the timeline. So I think that the first step, and where we spent a lot of the time the first half of this fiscal year, was staffing and hiring and building the team to be able to do the project, and now we're in procurement. And so again, I think that by 2026, it seems so far away, but it'll come faster than we think. We'll have the new system fully commissioned.
Thank you. And then I'm also looking, you commissioned an IT services and products assessment in November of 2022 that looked at an assessment will cover all city agencies, associated quasi-governmental agencies, including BPDA, Boston Public Health, Housing, BHA, Boston Public Schools, Police Department, Public Libraries. Would it be possible to get, is that report available? Is it good reading?
I think it's
or informative, because I think that's one of the big challenges is we have so many different entities that don't really speak to each other. That's why we have problems sometimes.
Yeah, so the report is not finalized yet. The numbers that I read to Councillor Coletta's question are data that came out of the report, but once it's published, we'll share it with the council and make sure that if you want to read it and have questions about it. We have started, we didn't wait for the answer to start doing things about it. So again, we've started to have regular meetings with IT leaders from schools, libraries, police, and other units. So we've started to build a lot on recommendations that we anticipated, but the report's upcoming. We'll let you guys know when it's available.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councillor. Marcia's gone. Councillor Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Overall, what would you say is your biggest challenges right now in terms of improving communications between departments?
Yeah, I mean, this is a large, complex bureaucracy. So in some sense, like the technology and the systems are there to support a process and support an experience. So much we are a city that has been around for longer than the U.S. So like sometimes there's like this ingrained practices and ways that we've been doing that sometimes are not even documented. So just like organizational change management, but we're lucky to have a great mayor and a mayor that forces all of us to think about embracing the possibilities. So it helps, but it is, again, I would say
bureaucracy,
like the complexity of the bureaucracy, what we discussed earlier, the lack of clarity around who's supposed to be making what decisions.
Understood. That's also
and
communication,
staffing,
right?
And staffing is difficult too.
Maybe if we can improve that, we'll figure out who's supposed to make decisions. So I guess, is 311 backed up by a database where all departments can access?
Yes, 311 is backed up by a system which we're replacing. And actually all of the data is public. You can access it through the Open Data Portal.
I took them, every single one of them for my district.
Yeah,
it's on our
great,
website.
yeah.
What I am asking though, it's that, so if everybody's communicating in one place, so like Public Works, ISD, and if it connects to ISD, they can all access that same inquiry in one system. Perfect. It's just missing the counselor, I guess. So we can see where it's at, and we could just tell them as opposed to bombarding everybody with emails.
We'll take your point as a follow-up item.
Again, just a checkbox. Yes, we are okay with the counselors. In terms of parking, can we improve the app and the app where you go, you park and you pay? Can we improve the app so that there's like spatial mapping and it shows you exactly where it's available?
So
some MIT students have created something like this. Not sure how successful it was in the other cities that they referenced, but what do you think?
Oh, I am sure there's very smart people out there, or hopefully hiring some of them. But so this goes to the point of the original part of the presentation. We're in a path to get there. It's just like the first part that we needed to be doing live updates of what's available is like very difficult because you need to have sensors or some way of like assessing.
It's expensive.
Very expensive. But we're moving towards the point that we at least will be able to say what regulations apply at that particular time, which is, I think, the original spirit that Councilor Coletta was inquiring. So we're making moves in that direction. Again, we're working closely with BTD and others as they think about their technology, how to get there, because we have different vendors and different pieces, and we don't want that to be the thing that keeps us from delivering a great experience.
Last questions, because I know that timer.
You
I
got the
spoke
time.
before the
No,
timer.
You got it.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm not as good as Fitzgerald, Councilor Fitzgerald. Oh gosh, no, did I lose it? I lost it. It's fasting brain. Oh yes, I remember. So, Carrie, I know that you're helping our office with this, but it's taking a long time. And last year, I passed an ordinance to actually publicize our voting records, but not only voting records, actual maps of constituents like districts, civic associations within district, and then constituents would just be like, not just what district am I in, but what civic association I belong to, and then drop-down menus that show you where you belong, or drop-down menus that show you like projects, budget deliverables, policies that we're working on, not just what we file, but our voting record. And it died because the mayor said, hey, you don't need me to do this, and you're telling us to do something that you don't need me to do. I still think it needed to be a mandate because then the councils are busy and we won't do it. But do we need our own staff to do that, or do you have the capacity to help us do that? Because I'm very interested in at least setting precedents with my site within boston.gov.
So,
or page, sorry.
yeah, no, I'd be happy to. We've been working on that, and we are.
Thank you.
The delay partially comes because we are wanting to do this in a way that is extraordinarily accessible. So we will report to you, to the council soon about what the improvements based on the feedback that you requested. To your point, we're trying to make the experience of the services that we provide better. So we appreciate the feedback that you gave us.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Chair. Council Anderson, I just want to say someone on my staff, actually, we did do for the civic groups where each one represents and the boundaries it does, and we gave it to the district attorney's office so they knew that if some traumatic event occurred, that they knew which civic group they should go to follow up with, to check in on the folks of that neighborhood to see what they're doing. And I think it's a great thing that we should all do and disperse as much as we can so other agencies and governments know what they need to do when something happens in that area. I think it's a great idea. Folks, sorry. Does the IT have, I think the last one that was done, right, and I don't know if you guys have a current one, but did IT had like some sort of a strategic plan, right? I think the last one was done in like 2010 or something like that, and I'm dating myself here, right? But is there something like that in the works where, and I think it's beneficial to both of us, where we can follow along, we know what your your initiatives are, the goals that you're trying to hit, and we can sort of follow along in the strategic plan where we don't always have to call you in for hearings every time, right? And we can just check out the plan as we go along and see how you guys are doing. Is there something like that being done still, or is that something in the works? I honestly, I don't know. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, I'd say it's always a pleasure and an honor to present to the council, so we're happy to share. But we did publish a strategic plan last year.
Okay.
It is at boston.gov/do-it-strategy. It's a very short document. We've been trying to embrace, again, more of the notion of having a true north, a direction that we're going, and embracing some methodologies that some would say are more modern best practice, like Agile and DevOps. So we've been trying to build incrementally using feedback that we get from users, including the council members, the community members, our workforce. So you'll find the strategic plan there, and then hopefully we can keep updating with the things that we've been doing, and then with, again, like the results of this IT assessment that we will finalize in the next few months, we'll post it there so that you guys can see it. But happy to keep sharing with you all about our progress and our direction.
Great. Thank you. I'll set you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Mejia?
So I'm just curious, I'm going to go back to infrastructure since this is the, and my colleague had asked the question about you all having some autonomy and having your own department and being able to, that's right. I remember Councilor Coletta asked. So I'm just curious, have you started those conversations already with the administration? Have we started exploring that? And that's like, I'm always curious about how we end up in certain spaces and places. So just curious if you could just provide some context to that thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, as you experience yourself, the last round of questions, a lot of times when we think that two systems should talk to each other, that something should be integrated, it is not entirely clear who is able to call the shots or make something happen. And when you have such a large and complex city, that makes things difficult. And at the worst, when there's a security incident and you need to contain something, it makes it complicated. But so we've been working on building trust and relationship between the different departments and the different technology groups. Because I think that as we build this, what we don't want is to make people feel like they'll lose control. There's like, you know, there's a sense of convenience and there's reasons why we build the way that we build. So we've been listening a lot, talking and building trust with the other departments and agencies. And we hope that as we do the assessment and we start getting a better sense of what the opportunity looks like, that we'll maybe come to you with some requests for helping us straighten some of the pieces that might be missing.
Yeah, no, I'm always, I'm a process person. And I always like to understand the thread of how we end up in certain spaces and places. So when Councilor Coletta suggested such, I was just curious if those things and how they manifest and how they end up in the chamber and then how they quickly get through the process. So just really, just curious. So, and Carrie, I just want to thank you because in 2020, it was my first year here on the council, and not even 3 months after coming in, we had to go remote, and you single-handedly created an environment for us to be able to do so successfully, and none of us knew what the world we were getting into. So I just want to say thank you for your leadership here while you were still with us, and I'm incredibly encouraged that you're on the other side because I know you are going to bring a little bit of that with you, and you have. So I just want to thank you for that. While I'm speaking of digital democracy, I'm curious in terms of infrastructure. I know we have our office, because we passed that language access ordinance, we were one of the first offices to host the first hearing in multiple languages, and they were being translated simultaneously. And it was a big deal for the council for us to do something like that. And I'm curious, I know from a budget perspective, but I know that it does cost, but I'm curious from a infrastructure, if that becomes a norm, or if it could become a norm, what would that look like in order for us to be able to really meet that capacity?
Well, I'd just like to start by saying thank you. 2020 was definitely interesting time for all of us, and I was happy to work with the central staff of the city council. Once a council member, always a council member, so I'm always looking forward to finding ways we can better support and improve the services that we offer to the council as well. In this space, we're definitely exploring what the technology opportunities are out there, and figuring out ways and areas where we can respond to answer the needs that you're asking. Definitely a work in progress.
Yeah, and I'll just say lastly, Chair, is that okay? That I am from the school of thought, or at least, I think it's important, is, Chief, is for you both, the more I know and what you need, the better I can advocate, right? Because I can have 101 things that I believe y'all should be doing, but y'all that doesn't even fall within my scope, right? So communication is key. So the more that I know especially as we move towards other more interesting processes that are going to be happening after April the 10th. I'd love to hear specifically from you all what you're looking for and how we can be of service. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Durkin?
Thank you so much. I don't know if this was covered yet, but I just thought I'd be remiss if I didn't mention it because it was mentioned in another hearing around the sort of the city's technological structure in terms of what knowing exactly how our to describe this in the best way, but basically our city properties match the databases that already exist and increase because right now we're not able to place liens on properties and fines, and it's just constantly, the conversation is constantly being shoved to do it, but we haven't had a conversation with Do It about how necessarily to make sure that the resources are necessary or that we hire the right vendor to create that program that would scrub from another database online. I'm just curious on your end, Chief Garces, what needs to be done, and I'm sorry if someone already covered this, but just how we can advocate for that, given that we have a lot of problem properties in our city, and it's of urgent need, and Councilor Braden's someone who's really led on this, and former Councilor Bach, and obviously I have my own Mission Hill Problem Properties Task Force in my district, so trying to figure out like how I can interact with that and the conversation around liens.
Yeah, we discussed briefly, we're learning about some of the issues around, so I could give you like a more generic answer, I guess, like we just heard about some of the issues and we'll follow up to try to understand what the opportunities to drive improvements are. But generally one of the big areas of focus for us has been making improvements to what we would think about like enterprise data assets. So a record of the addresses, a record of properties, who owns them, their value, a record of assets, a record of streets. It's just like fundamentally it underpins everything. So it seems that there's some opportunity around collecting and getting information from the registrar of deeds around who owns a property at a particular point in time.
Well, and it was brought up in a hearing this morning that a lien hadn't been placed on a property since 2016. So obviously, for some of our problem properties, I mean, we were particularly talking about trash, but there's so many other reasons that we would, I've had a couple of graffiti issues in my district that have just reappeared, and if I've been part of clearing graffiti off of something 3 times, I think they should have a lien on their property. And I heard that it costs, this particular one that I'm talking about costs $15,000 a pop. Why aren't we passing that, that cost on to someone else or in the form of a lien, or why aren't we deterring people from continuing to, be bad landlords? So I hope that we're able to convene a conversation with Do It and all the necessary, because I do think this is part of like the technological advancements that we need to do that, or what we need to accomplish everything else. So
there's definitely work to be done again as we build and modernize. There's some things that existed that just need to be modernized, and then there's gaps and things that we need to build to have that type of information flow between our system of record, assessing, and also the data that the permitting and licensing systems that actually run code enforcement use. So,
and we have some, I'll just add, we have some great coders and incredible minds at BPS Transportation. So I don't know if you guys can intersect or have some sort of conversation, but they're doing some really incredible stuff over there. And I know that we're always looking to, innovate, and it's part of what's making us a great city is we have so many city departments that are doing incredible work. So just wanted to highlight them because I did a tour and I saw what they were doing. So thank you both.
Thank you, Councilor. Third round of questions? Does anyone have questions?
A couple more.
Okay.
I promise to be quick.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we'll do one more round. Councilor Coletta.
Thank you, Chair, and I will be quick, I promise. It's almost 2 hours, but obviously this is something that I care about. So thinking about the assessment the entire assessment of individual departments, which departments have been completed already, how long will it take, and when will we be done? We also discussed the fact that you hired 4 business relationship managers, which is great, so congratulations. It is hard to recruit and retain qualified, skilled individuals within this field because we know that they could secure the bag in the private sector more so than they could here in municipal government. So wondering if there's been any challenges trying to attract folks. And then, yeah, why don't we start there and then we'll go into, I have 2 more questions after that.
Yeah. Again, the way that we approached the assessment was trying to, more than an in-depth analysis of each department, it's just like trying to even document and understand what the landscape looks like, because it is something that we were missing. So we have information about, I think, all departments and agencies, even the quasis, because we, again, as someone who was new, and this came when I first started, it's like, I don't even know what departments we're connected to, like if, what are we responsible for if something fails and is not written? So the good things is like the assessment will give us that in a sense of like how these 14 different groups that do IT, how their staff, what are the skills, what are they covering? Are they covering endpoint devices? Are they actually doing data analysis? Are they supporting an application? So we got, I think, all of the departments and agencies of the city. And again, I think that the report will be finalized in the next couple of months. Like we have already a lot of the preliminary results. They just need to finalize with the consultant and make it public. On your second question, pardon me, can you?
How are we doing with hiring folks?
Hiring folks. Look, we've been spending a lot of time and being very intentional with my team. We meet every 2 weeks to talk about all of the vacancies, and we're trying to build a really diverse and skilled workplace. And it is difficult, as you pointed out. The starting salary, IT and technology jobs are the second best paid jobs in the private sector after doctor and medical, like medical field. So and then there's a residency requirement that a lot of times like people that have these skills don't live within the city. So I think that we've been moving in the right direction and we have less vacancies, and it is tough. And, but yeah, there's, again, the residency requirement is, it's difficult, particularly with these like very technical jobs. But we're moving forward. We hired our first chief of engineering and architecture, so like bringing someone with the expertise to manage all the technical integrations and all these systems. So it's
Great. Thank you. And I will just offer a suggestion quickly, Chair. I just went to Charlestown High and was a part of their entrepreneurial fair, and a lot of questions that I get are how can we attract innovation and creativity and folks that are going to be bold? The talent is right here in Boston. It's in our high schools. And so there's a track in Charlestown High where they create their own apps. Like these are kids that are going to be making way more money than any of us someday. And so just look to our high schools, look to Bunker Hill Community College and that pathway, which is, it's not dual enrollment, but it's early college. I look forward to reviewing that report, and then also what your priority is to embed into this budget. If you can choose one thing, just say it quickly.
I'll wait until the mayor finalizes the budget
Good
before.
answer. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Braden.
Thank you. I'm just curious, does the Administrative Services Department still exist? Because it used to house Human Resources, Finance and Procurement functions, and DoIT, which used to be called Management Information Services, MIS, until 2014 was within Administrative Services and provided central services to all departments. I'm just curious because there's been a little restructuring of our bureaucratic edifice, and I wondered, like, does that department even exist anymore? And this might be a historic archaeological dig here, but it's going back to 2014. It's only 10 years ago.
I believe that construct still exists. And again, up to some point, what we discussed in terms of functions and like ordinances, there's nothing that describes even what MIS responsibilities were in the Code of Ordinances. I know because I'm a programmer, so the first thing that I do when I get to a new city is I try to read the code to see what, and that piece is missing. So I would defer to IGR and to others that can give you the more accurate description of how it all interplays, but my understanding is that there is still a thing that looks like the Administrative Services Department, even though we have Alex Lawrence as Chief People Officer.
And since you brought up codes and ordinances, does DoIT have an ordinance that, is it covered? Like if MIS wasn't in there, DoIT doesn't have one either.
I don't believe so.
Oh.
That was a part of the gap of like going and thinking about like, authority and responsibilities.
I think, considering that we're modernizing our information technology infrastructure, and this is not for you folks generally, but I think it's a statement about the need to modernize our codes and ordinances and bring it up to date, because some of the stuff is 50 years old and hasn't been looked at in a long time. Let's see. I think that's really something we need to work on. But that said, I think having DoIT or MIS as it was then being a central part of an administrative services department structure gave you a lot of reach. It was intended to give you a lot of reach to be supportive of all the departments across the enterprise. And I think there was a lot of in different departments sort of improvised and bought their own software and set up their own information systems that weren't necessarily talking to each other. So we're sort of trying to do some remedial work here to try and fix a situation that evolved 10, 15, 20 years ago. Are there many systems out there within our bureaucratic structure that are sort of obsolete, out of date, and need to be replaced? How much in other departments, how many departments have out of date software that needs to be worked on?
I think that if you wanted a really in-depth answer to that question, having an executive session where we could talk, because again, some of the answers to those questions talk about security vulnerabilities. I would just say that we're being more proactive than ever about knowing what we have and starting to build, with your help, this expected lifetime that we're going to hold on to the system so that we can be judicious and understanding how long do we expect to use this, that we can budget for it so that we can replace it. And there's been a lot of partnership with OBM and with others to try to get to where we need to be, but there are things that we need to modernize, and some of them we are modernizing right now, where we're spending the bulk of our time.
I appreciate the sensitivity of the information, because cybersecurity is critical to our being able to turn the lights on and do our job. And so thank you for all your work. It's incredibly important. It's probably one of the most, it enables all our other departments to do their work. So thank you so much for all your work. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Anderson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Carrie Santiago, right? Mr. Garces, thank you. Chief Garces, thank you so much for your work and being here. I look forward to connecting with you outside of this hearing, and hopefully I'm very excited to see your presentation. Hopefully we can get to that as soon as possible. I just have one last request. I need you to create a unicorn that also serves lunch and does a whole bunch of other things. But I do have a whole bunch of ideas. And I would love to connect with you guys and just realistically give me feedback yeah, this is doable or this is not, okay?
Okay, absolutely.
Please, thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Mejia.
Thank you. I'd like to get a unicorn too, so I second and ditto that request. I want my unicorn to wear a tutu. Okay. And a beret. Being the drama queen, right? All right, so I think that there is something to be said. We recently codified the Office of Immigrant Advancement because it was been established and has never been codified into law, right? So my colleagues' questions in regards to the fact that at any moment, at any time, right, you're here, but you necessarily doesn't mean that you're always going to be here, right? And so there is an opportunity for us to really look to see what other departments are within the charter that just happens to be there but doesn't have a real formal or something that gets formalized. So we want to make sure you can stay here, right? And so we got to work on Councilor Coletta's idea. So I think that there is definitely something to be said about making sure that you can stay here for the long run. Because what that does is that it doesn't matter who is in a position of power, that you and the work that you do will always stand. And so I think that that's really important. And I'm just going to ask a little bit about data breaches. I know this is like we've already talked about it, but there were several incidences of data breaches that had occurred through different departments, maybe not within city department, but with BPS and other spaces and places. And so I'm just curious, how are we, what are we doing to protect people's privacy? Because you know what, like if you have, like the city councils, we don't have no privacy. We have no privacy, right? Like we're like, hey, we're public. But private residents do. So let's say, for instance, somebody has, 100,000 parking tickets. Like, how are we protecting people's information in this day and age?
Yeah, again, security is one of our top areas of concern and where I think coordinate, and when we're gathering information or collecting information from our constituents, that has to be at the forefront also what departments and others think about. We're custodians of our constituents are trusting us with information and things that could put them at harm if they're in the wrong hands. So we keep building, again, what I said is like the biggest gap is this like federated kind of complex structure where there's a lot of roles and responsibilities that sometimes haven't been like fully assigned. But I'd just say we work closely with the Chief Information Security Officer, Greg McCarthy, and his really brilliant team. We work when departments have an incident or believe that they have been impacted. We have a protocol to respond to those incidents, and we work closely with our law department and with others to make sure that we're addressing them. So again, I wouldn't comment on any specific incident. We could talk about that in some executive session, I'd imagine, but we work through that and having a coordinated response. And then what we're interested in is that every department and agency is working with the right tools, that we're assured that we are doing everything that we can to protect their privacy and the security that they have.
I heard the bell. But thank you you both, thank you.
Thank you. Any last minute questions? Okay. Cora, do we have any public testimonies? Yeah. I don't know, she's gonna check. No. Good, okay, good. We're gonna move forward with closing remarks. And I'd like to start with the sponsor of this docket, Councilor Coletta.
Thank you, Chair, and I want to thank you both again just for everything that you do for the City of Boston and your forward-thinking creativity in making sure that the city is running smoothly and our data is secure, and we are serving our residents at the end of the day. I do look forward to continuing these conversations, reviewing the report, seeing what comes through the budget, and how we can expand your department. I think it is a priority of mine to make sure that your budget is safeguarded, given that your work is so integral to the City of Boston. And so you have that commitment from me, and just thank you again for your deep partnership and all of this work and the progress made thus far. So thank you.
Councilor Braden.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say thank you. Your work is incredibly important, as I already mentioned, and thank you. We had a very robust conversation here this afternoon, and I look forward to continuing to work with you in any which way we can support your work and get you the resources that you need to continue addressing the deficits that we have and building a really strong, and maybe go for platinum next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Carrie and Chief. Look forward to working with you or getting your presentations. I am really interested in the bureaucratic part. I think that the forms are super outdated. I think Councilor Coletta filed something on documents in updating just the formats last year or the year prior. But I used to file a lot with the city because I worked in development, believe it or not. And it was just, oh my God. It's Stone Age. And so I know that there's some departments that still suffer from that. So just interested in making it more intuitive. And I know this is not technology, but it's super important when we're talking about communications and making things more efficient. We also have to look at the forms and in terms of how to make those forms electronic as well. So thank you and look forward to more. And same, I'm not giving you a commitment, but I support your work, and reasonably so, I will be supporting whatever recommendations you've made to OBM and the mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Mejia.
Councilor Anderson, everything you say can and will be held against you in the court of this council, so get ready. Ditto. I do agree and believe that you all are literally the lifeline, right? If we, I don't know if you saw that movie. I don't remember the name again of it, but Obama's movie. The World is Coming to an End. Is that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Is that? Do you guys remember that?
Yeah. Don't Look Up?
Yeah. Don't Look Up. Was it whatever it was? I remember watching it, and there was a scene where the dad had to get somewhere, and the GPS system, nothing worked, and he couldn't get to where he needed to be. And I know that's like a movie, but the reality is that without you, we wouldn't really be able to function or we'll have to go back to the way that things used to be. And some people, especially the youngins, they don't know what it's like to write on a piece of paper. And so there is something to be said about those who rely on technology and the important work that you do. And so I just want to, echo the fact that you are definitely important. I just want to say thank you and deep gratitude. And it's just, I love to see folks who have grown up literally and then they're in positions like this. So you too, Chief, I can see how incredibly passionate you are about this work, and it really shows in how thoughtful you were in your responses. So thank you. And thank you, Carrie. It's always great to see you, and I really do appreciate you and making sure that you always had all the right angles when we were in this chamber. Thank you.
Gracias. Thank you, Councillor. Any closing remarks by the panelists?
Just say thank you again. Thank you for being patient, and as we keep trying to make the city work a little bit better to break some of the silos and the things that can be frustrating for people and building a city that has a better experience. I think that's what the Mayor Wu has asked us to do. And there's a lot of work to be done. This is a complex place that has a lot of pieces that need to all work together to deliver a good experience. So I thank you for being kind and patient in working with us. Gracias. Carrie, I don't know if you...
Just to echo that, we're very proud of the opportunity to work with you all and make the improvements that the city and the workforce needs.
Thank you. Yeah. As the chair, I just want to thank you all. Thank my colleagues for bringing this to the table. Thank you to the panelists today, Chief and Carrie. It's amazing to work with you. Excited to see the work we do together to just continue the innovation of technology in the city. I think we're in the age of it, and we just have to make sure that everyone has equitable access to it and that we're doing it appropriately. So thank you. But with that, I'll call this hearing to adjourn.
Thank you, Chair.